Mirabel's hand shook as she positioned her phone to capture the golden hour light streaming through her apartment window. The silhouette was perfect, her baby bump outlined against the fading Seoul sunset like a promise waiting to be kept.
Oh my goodness.
She opened her messages and found his name, the man who'd walked away 3 months ago, without looking back. "I know you said you needed space," she typed carefully, "but I thought you deserved to see this. Our baby is growing strong, even if you're not here to witness it. I'm not asking you to come back. Just thought you should know we're okay." She attached the photo and pressed send before she could change her mind. What Mirabel didn't realize was that exhaustion had betrayed her, her finger slipping on the keypad and changing a single digit in the phone number she'd memorized but never saved. Across the city, in a soundproofed boardroom lined with mahogany and tension, Kang Choi's phone lit up during the kind of meeting where men spoke in measured tones while making threats that could end lives. 6 of Seoul's most dangerous power brokers sat frozen as he glanced down at his screen. His expression didn't change, that legendary stone mask firmly in place, but everyone in that room felt the shift in atmosphere, the way the air seemed to contract around him. The photograph filled his display, a woman's curved silhouette, pregnant and alone, backlit by sunset gold. The message beneath it clearly wasn't meant for his eyes. Something ancient stirred in his chest, something he'd buried years ago after the doctors delivered their final verdict. "We need to continue this discussion," one of the men ventured carefully. Kang's eyes never left the screen. "Meeting's over. Leave." His voice was quiet, which made it more terrifying. These were men who'd built empires on intimidation, yet they stood and filed out without protest. Only Hyun-woo, his right hand for over a decade, remained behind. "What's happened?" he asked, genuine concern crossing his weathered features. "Before we discover anything, I need you to help me build something special. This tale is about to take you on a wild ride, and I'm creating a community of people who love these stories as much as I do. Welcome to Afro Korean Films Besties. This is our 4th video. Kindly show your encouragement by hitting the like and subscribe button. It would mean a lot to me. Thank you to those who already subscribed before now. You inspired me to keep creating more videos like this." Kang turned the phone so Hyun-woo could see. The older man studied the image, his confusion evident. "Someone sent you the wrong message." "Find out who she is," Kang said, his tone brooking no argument. "Everything about her. Where she lives, what she needs, why she's alone." "Boss, respectfully, why does this matter?" "It's just a misdirected text." Kang stood and walked to the floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the glittering sprawl of Gangnam. The city he'd conquered through blood and strategy stretched out beneath him like a kingdom, but in that moment, it all felt hollow. "Do you remember what the specialists told me last year?" he asked quietly. "After all the tests, all the consultations with experts from around the world," Hyun-woo's face softened with understanding, "they said there was no chance, that you'd never father children. And here," Kang gestured to the phone, "is a woman carrying life that someone has discarded. The one thing in this world I cannot buy, cannot take, cannot create through force of will. She has it, and whoever put that child inside her walked away." His jaw tightened. "Find her tonight. I need to know she's safe." Mirabel woke the next morning to 5 missed calls from a number she didn't recognize. Her phone rang again before she could process what was happening. "Hello?" Her voice came out scratchy with sleep. "Ms. Mirabel Bennett?" A man's voice, professional but warm with a Korean accent. "This is Hyun-woo Kang. I'm calling on behalf of Mr. Kang Choi. He received a message from you yesterday evening and would very much like to speak with you." Mirabel's mind raced as reality crashed down. The message, the photo. Wrong number. "I think there's been a terrible mistake," she said quickly. "That message wasn't meant for whoever Mr. Choi is. I'm so sorry for the confusion. Please just delete it and forget you ever saw it." I'm afraid Mr. Choi has requested a meeting with you personally. He's prepared to send a car to your location at your earliest convenience. Ice flooded Mirabel's veins. How do you know my location? Mr. Choi has considerable resources at his disposal. He means you no harm, Ms. Bennett. Quite the opposite. He simply wishes to have a brief conversation. No, Mirabel said firmly. Thank you, but absolutely not. I'm not meeting with a complete stranger because I accidentally sent him a text message. There was a pause. Ms. Bennett, I understand your caution. It's actually quite wise. Mr. Choi anticipated your reluctance. He'll be at the coffee shop on the corner near your building at 2 o'clock this afternoon. Your presence is completely voluntary, but he hopes you'll give him just a few minutes of your time. The call ended before she could protest further. Mirabel sat in her small apartment, one hand protectively over her belly, trying to process what had just happened. They knew her full name. They knew where she lived. Who was this Kang Choi? At 1:55, Mirabel stood at her window watching the street below. A sleek black car pulled up precisely on time. Two men in dark suits emerged first, scanning the area with the practiced efficiency of professional security. Then he stepped out. Even from 4 floors up, his presence was commanding. Tall and broad-shouldered, moving with the kind of confidence that suggested the world rearranged itself to accommodate him, not the other way around. He wore a charcoal suit that probably cost more than 3 months of her rent, and even from this distance, she could see the sharp angles of his face, the controlled grace of his movements. At 1:58, Mirabel decided she absolutely would not go down there. At 2:03, there was a knock at her apartment door. Her heart hammered against her ribs. She hadn't given anyone her apartment number. Ms. Bennett. His voice was deep, carrying clearly through the door, the Korean accent subtle but present. My name is Kang Choi. I received your photograph last night. I understand this is alarming, and I apologize for the intrusion. My security team is waiting downstairs. I'm alone out here. I'm only asking for 5 minutes of your time. Mirabel moved to the peephole. He stood perfectly still in the hallway, hands visible at his sides, his posture non-threatening despite the obvious power radiating from him. Against every instinct screaming at her to stay hidden, she opened the door. Up close, he was even more striking, sharp cheekbones, intense dark eyes that seemed to see straight through her, a small scar bisecting his left eyebrow. He didn't look around her modest apartment with judgment or curiosity. Instead, his attention remained completely focused on her face. How did you get up here? She demanded, keeping one hand on the door, ready to slam it shut. The building manager was persuaded to provide your apartment number. I apologize for the invasion of privacy. Persuaded how? Money, he said simply. Most problems can be solved with adequate financial incentive. Your building security is inadequate. I've already arranged for improvements. You can't just, Mirabel began, then stopped, bewildered. Why would you do that? Because you live here, he said as if it were obvious, and you're vulnerable. I don't know you. This is completely insane. Yes, he agreed calmly. It is. May I come in? 5 minutes, then I'll leave if you ask me to. Mirabel stepped back, letting him enter. He moved into her small living space, and suddenly everything felt too cramped, too intimate. He remained standing, maintaining distance. Your message was meant for the father, he stated. It wasn't a question. Mirabel stiffened. That's none of your business. No, it isn't, he agreed. But I saw it anyway, and it affected me in ways I didn't expect. Affected you how? His gaze dropped briefly to her belly, then back to her face. You wrote that you weren't asking for money. That, despite everything, you were doing okay, are you? The directness of the question caught her off guard. I'm managing. You're struggling, he corrected gently, alone in a foreign country, pregnant, clearly under financial strain. He glanced at the stack of past due notices on her kitchen table that she'd forgotten to hide. Shame burned through her. I didn't invite you here to judge my situation. I'm not judging, he said. I'm assessing how I can help. Help? Why would you possibly want to help me? What do you get out of this? Something flickered across his face, vulnerability breaking through that controlled exterior. Nothing. I get nothing except the knowledge that I did what I could for someone who needed it. People don't do something for nothing, especially not people who can track down strangers from a wrong number and show up at their apartment. What are you really after? Kang was quiet for a long moment, seeming to weigh his words. The doctors have told me that I can never have children. It's medically impossible. When I saw your photograph, saw that message about someone abandoning what I would sacrifice everything to have, I felt something I haven't felt in years. I felt responsible, as if the universe had sent me that message for a reason. The confession hung in the air between them. Mirabel searched his face for deception and found only raw honesty. That's the most insane thing I've ever heard, she said finally. Yes, he agreed with a slight smile. It probably is. He placed a business card on her table. My private number. If you need anything at all, call me. Medical care, food, security, just a conversation. I won't intrude again without your permission, but please know the offer stands. I can't repay you for anything. I'm not asking you to. I'm not asking for anything except the opportunity to help ensure that child has everything they need, since their biological father is apparently too foolish to appreciate what he had. The bitterness in his voice was barely perceptible, but unmistakable. Your 5 minutes are up, Mirabel said softly, though without the edge she'd had before. Kang nodded and moved toward the door. He paused at the threshold. The father who abandoned you is an idiot, Ms. Bennett. Whatever his reasons, walking away from you and that child was the greatest mistake of his worthless life. Before she could respond, he was gone, leaving only his business card and 1,000 questions in his wake. 4 days passed without contact. Mirabel told herself she was relieved. She didn't need some mysterious stranger inserting himself into her life, no matter how sincere he seemed. Then the delivery arrived. Not just groceries, but high-quality prenatal vitamins, traditional Korean soups known to benefit pregnant women, fresh fruit and vegetables, protein-rich foods. The delivery person said everything had been paid for, including a generous tip. Mirabel stared at the boxes filling her kitchen, then picked up her phone. She texted the number on his card. I didn't ask for groceries. His response came within seconds. I know, but you need them and I can provide them. No strings attached. I don't accept charity from strangers. Then don't think of it as charity. Consider it a gift from someone who respects your strength and wants to support it. Why are you really doing this? The reply took longer this time. Because when I close my eyes, I see that photograph. I see you standing alone, creating life, fighting to build something beautiful despite being abandoned. That kind of strength deserves to be supported, not ignored. Mirabel found herself smiling despite her resistance. There was something disarming about his directness, the way he didn't hide behind false modesty or manipulative tactics. Over the next 2 weeks, more packages arrived. A proper pregnancy pillow, books about childbirth and infant care in both English and Korean, a gift card to a maternity clothing store. Each time she'd text him some version of, "This is too much," and he'd respond with calm assurance that it wasn't. Then came the rainy afternoon that changed everything. Mirabel had just left a discouraging doctor's appointment where her blood pressure readings had prompted stern warnings about stress and preeclampsia risks. As she walked home through the downpour, her umbrella broken by the wind, soaked and exhausted, a familiar black car pulled alongside her. The window rolled down, revealing Kang's concerned face. "Get in," he said without preamble. "You shouldn't be walking in this weather." "I'm fine," she insisted, though she was shivering. "You're soaked. It's cold and you're 7 months pregnant. Please get in the car before you catch pneumonia and we both feel foolish about this conversation." Something about the dry humor in his tone made her smile. She climbed in. He immediately wrapped a soft blanket around her shoulders. "How did you know where I was?" she asked, accepting a bottle of water he offered. "I didn't. I was heading to a meeting and happened to drive past. Saw you walking. Convenient timing." "I prefer to think of it as fate," he said, with that ghost of a smile she was beginning to recognize. "The same fate that had me receive your message instead of whoever you meant to send it to." "You really believe in fate?" "I believe that sometimes the universe creates the connections we need, even if we don't understand why at the time." "What are the mathematical odds that your finger would slip on exactly the right digit to reach me? Out of millions of possible numbers? The odds of a wealthy man with questionable resources keeping tabs on a woman he barely knows? Probably pretty good, actually." Kang's smile widened. "You're remarkably direct, Ms. Bennett." "Mirabel," she said suddenly, "if you're going to keep mysteriously appearing in my life, you should probably use my first name." Something warm flickered in his eyes. "Mirabel, then. And I promise I'm not keeping tabs on you, just looking out for you. There's a difference." "Is there? Because I've noticed the same two men in a car across from my building for the past week. Let me guess, they're not watching me either?" His expression shifted, becoming more serious. "You noticed them?" "I'm observant." "They're there for your protection." Mirabel's pulse quickened. "Protection from what?" "Seoul can be dangerous for a woman alone, especially a foreign woman who's visibly pregnant. I simply wanted to ensure your safety." "What kind of businessman needs armed guards watching an apartment building?" The question hung between them. Kang was quiet for a moment before responding. "The kind who has enemies. The kind who wants to make certain that his interest in you doesn't create vulnerabilities." A chill ran through her that had nothing to do with being wet. "Who are you really, Kang?" "Someone who can help you," he said simply. "Someone who wants to. That's all that should matter." "That's not an answer. It's the only answer I can give right now." His eyes met hers, intense and honest. "But I can promise you this. I have never harmed anyone who didn't deserve it. I have never broken a promise once given, and I would never allow harm to come to you or your child. On that, you have my word." The restaurant he took her to was small and private, tucked away from the main streets. Over dinner, Mirabel studied him, trying to reconcile the attentive man across from her with the powerful figure who commanded such resources. "Your turn," he said, setting down his chopsticks. "Tell me something about yourself that isn't in the background check." "Background check?" Her voice rose slightly. He had the grace to look slightly embarrassed. Poor phrasing. "Basic information gathered for security purposes only. I needed to know you were safe to approach." "That's incredibly invasive." "It's protective," he countered. "I needed to understand your situation, ensure you weren't in immediate danger." And was I? Something darkened in his expression. "The father of your child has accumulated gambling debts to some very dangerous people. That created potential risk for you." The blood drained from Mirabel's face. "James has gambling debts? To dangerous people?" "Had," Kang corrected quietly. "The debts have been settled. He won't be approached by those particular creditors again." Mirabel stared at him in disbelief. "You paid off his gambling debts? Why would you do that?" "Because they represented a threat to your safety and the baby's. The amount was insignificant to me. I can't possibly repay you for that." "I never asked you to." His voice softened. "Mirabel, I don't want anything from you except the chance to help. That's all. Everyone wants something." "Not always. Sometimes people simply want to do what's right because they have the means to do it." She laughed, but there was little humor in it. "In my experience, men who talk about doing what's right are usually hiding what's wrong." Instead of being offended, Kang nodded thoughtfully. "A fair assessment based on your history with James. You're asking if I'm involved in illegal activities. Are you? Would it change things if I was?" "Of course it would," Mirabel said firmly. He studied her face for a long moment. My family has been in Seoul for generations. We've built legitimate businesses, developed extensive networks. Some of those networks operate in what you might call grey areas. I won't deny that. That's not really an answer. It's the honest answer I can give. He leaned forward slightly. But I can promise you this. I protect what's mine. I honour my commitments. And I would move heaven and earth to keep you and your baby safe. The intensity in his voice, in his eyes, made Mirabel's breath catch. She believed him, though she couldn't explain why. The next morning, Mirabel woke to unexpected pounding on her door. Through the peephole, she saw James standing in the hallway, looking thinner than she remembered, his clothes rumpled, dark circles under his eyes. "Mirabel," he said when she cautiously opened the door, You're really showing now." She instinctively placed a protective hand over her belly. "What are you doing here, James?" "I want to make things right," he said, his words tumbling out quickly. "I want to be part of the baby's life, your life. I've been doing a lot of thinking about my responsibilities." "Why now?" Mirabel asked, suspicion colouring her tone. "What changed?" He glanced past her into the apartment, his eyes catching on the expensive crib, the quality items scattered around. "I've been trying to get my life together. You know, for the baby." "Did someone come to see you about your debts?" James paled slightly. "What are you talking about?" "I know about the gambling, James. The money you owed." His expression shifted, anger flashing across his features. "Who told you that? Was it him? Is that why you suddenly have all this expensive stuff? Who is he, Mirabel?" "That's none of your business." "It is if he's involved with my child." He stepped closer. "People are talking, Mirabel, about you and some Korean businessman. Dangerous people are interested in who Kang Choi is spending time with. You gave up the right to have opinions about my life when you walked out," Mirabel said, her voice hardening. "Now you care." "I'm trying to protect you," James insisted. "Do you have any idea who he is? Kang Choi isn't just some businessman. He's connected to people who make problems disappear, permanently. You're in over your head. Like you protected me when you left me alone and pregnant in a foreign country, when you couldn't even return my calls." James's expression shifted, calculation replacing concern. "Fine, let's talk about money then. I'll provide support for the baby. We can work something out." "I don't want your money, James. Everyone wants money, Mirabel. That's how the world works." "Get out," she said quietly but firmly. "We're not done here. That's my child you're carrying. I have legal rights. Rights you abandoned months ago. Now please leave before I call someone." After the door closed behind him, Mirabel stood with shaking hands pressed against the wood. She reached for her phone and dialed. Kang answered on the first ring. "Mirabel, is everything all right?" "James was just here," she said without preamble. There was a pause. When Kang spoke again, his voice had transformed, colder, harder, dangerous. "Are you hurt?" "No, just shaken up. He knows about you, about the debts being paid." He seemed frightened. "Stay exactly where you are. I'm coming to you now." Kang arrived in under 20 minutes with Hyunwoo and one other man. The carefully controlled businessman she'd come to know had been replaced by someone harder, more dangerous. His movements were precise, his eyes scanning everything. "Tell me exactly what he said," Kang commanded, his voice tight with controlled fury. After Mirabel recounted the conversation, his expression grew darker. "He mentioned my name specifically?" "Yes. He seemed afraid of you, said people were talking." Something flickered across Kang's face, satisfaction perhaps. Good. He should be afraid. "What does that mean?" Mirabel asked quietly. "It means he's been given very clear warnings to stay away from you." "By you?" "Yes. Why didn't you tell me?" "Because I didn't want to worry you." He moved closer, his intense gaze fixed on her face. "Mirabel, James didn't come here out of sudden paternal concern. He's desperate. The gambling debts I settled were only part of his problems. He owes money to people who don't negotiate, people who use violence to collect, people far more dangerous than me. And he thinks I can help him because of you. Kang nodded grimly. He's trying to use the baby as leverage. What do I do? Let me handle it. Without hurting him, Mirabel added firmly. Please. A brief hesitation crossed his face. If that's what you want, it is. Promise me you won't hurt him, Kang. His jaw tightened, but he nodded. I promise no physical harm will come to him, but he will stay away from you. That's non-negotiable. Thank you. His expression softened slightly. I told you from the beginning, I protect what matters to me. You matter, Mirabel. Both of you. The words hung in the air between them, heavy with meaning. A week later, Seoul was hit by the worst storm in years. Rain battered Mirabel's windows as thunder shook the entire building. The power went out completely, plunging her apartment into darkness. Her phone battery was nearly dead, the emergency candles providing minimal light. As the apartment grew colder and darker, Mirabel made her decision. She called Kang. I'm going to take you up on that offer, she said when he answered, if it's still available. His voice warmed immediately. Always. I'll send a car right now. Pack whatever you need. The penthouse was stunning, floor-to-ceiling windows offering panoramic views of the storm-swept city. But it was the nursery that stopped Mirabel in her tracks. Fully furnished with the highest quality items, painted in soft, welcoming colours. On the crib was a small stuffed rabbit with a note in Kang's handwriting. This was mine as a child. My grandmother told me it protected me from bad dreams. Perhaps it can do the same for your little one. Tears welled in Mirabel's eyes. The gesture was so unexpectedly personal, offering not just material support but a piece of his own history, his own childhood. The next morning she woke to sunlight streaming through massive windows and the smell of coffee. In the kitchen she found Kang himself, dressed casually in jeans and a simple black shirt, preparing breakfast. I didn't know you cooked, she said, surprised. Only breakfast, he admitted with a slight smile. My grandmother insisted every man should know how to cook at least one proper meal. This is mine. As they ate, Mirabel studied him. Here, in his private space, away from the intensity of their usual interactions, Kang seemed different, more relaxed, less guarded. Will you stay here too? She asked suddenly. He looked up, surprise flickering across his face. I have an apartment on a different floor. I thought you'd prefer privacy. I'd feel safer with you nearby, Mirabel admitted. Something shifted in his expression, warmth mixing with something deeper. Then I'll move my things to the guest room today. I can work from here most of the time. After breakfast, as they stood by the windows watching the storm finally pass, Kang grew serious. Your safety matters to me more than I can properly express, he said quietly. I need you to understand that. I do, Mirabel replied. But why, Kang? Really? Why do you care so much about someone you barely know? He turned to face her fully, all pretense stripped away. Because when I look at you, I see strength and courage. Because that child you're carrying deserves better than abandonment. Because somewhere along the way, between that first message and now, you've become important to me in ways I didn't expect and can't fully explain. And because, he paused, vulnerability crossing his features. When I thought about you alone in that storm, about something happening to you or the baby, I've never been so afraid in my life. A sharp pain suddenly lanced through Mirabel's abdomen. She gasped, her hand flying to her belly. Kang was at her side instantly, his arm supporting her. What's wrong? What hurts? I don't know, she managed through gritted teeth. Something's not right. Without hesitation, he lifted her into his arms. I'm taking you to the hospital. Now. At the hospital, doctors confirmed preeclampsia. Dangerous, but manageable if monitored closely. Through it all, Kang never left her side. He asked precise questions, made sure she understood every piece of information the doctors provided, and made it clear that money was no object when it came to her care. When they were finally alone in the hospital room, Mirabel felt exhaustion washing over her. "You didn't have to stay this whole time." Kang sat beside her bed, his usually immaculate appearance rumpled after hours in the hospital. "Yes, I did." "Why?" He looked at her, and for the first time she saw him completely unguarded. "Because I care for you, Mirabel. More than is probably wise. More than I planned to. When I saw you in pain, when I thought something might happen to you or the baby, I realized something. This stopped being about helping a stranger a long time ago." Over the following weeks, with Mirabel on strict bed rest in the penthouse, Kang worked from home. They fell into an easy routine, breakfast together, him working while she rested, evening conversations that stretched long into the night. She learned about his childhood, his grandmother who raised him, the violence and betrayal that had shaped his path. He learned about her teaching career, her dreams of giving her child a better life, her fears about single motherhood. One evening, as they sat watching the sunset paint the city in shades of gold, Kang received an urgent call. His expression changed instantly, warmth replaced by cold focus. "I have to go," he said, his tone apologetic but firm. "Business that can't wait." Alarm flickered through Mirabel. "Is everything all right?" "There's a situation with a rival organization. It's being handled, but I prefer to take precautions where your safety is concerned. I've tripled security in the building." "Is it dangerous?" "Not for you," he assured her. "This place is the most secure location in Seoul, but I need to address this personally." "Be careful," she said softly. Surprise crossed his face, followed by something warmer. He leaned down, pressing his lips gently to her forehead. "Always." By morning, with still no word from Kang, Mirabel's anxiety had peaked. She tried calling, but his phone went straight to voicemail. Finally, she contacted Hyun-woo. "Ms. Bennett," he answered immediately. "Is something wrong?" "I haven't heard from Kang since yesterday." "Is he all right?" A careful pause. "Mr. Choi is in meetings. He's fine." "You're lying to me." Another pause, longer this time. "There was an incident last night. Mr. Choi sustained some injuries, but he's being treated. Nothing life-threatening. I need to see him." "That's not advisable given your condition." "Then I'll find him myself," Mirabel said with determination, "with or without your help." 30 minutes later, Hyun-woo arrived to escort her. Kang's private residence was a traditional Korean home, secluded behind high walls. She found him in a sitting room overlooking a small garden, his left arm in a sling, bruises darkening his jaw. When he heard her enter, he turned, shock crossing his features. "Mirabel, what are you doing here? You should be resting." "So should you," she countered, moving closer. "You're hurt. What happened?" His jaw tightened. "Hyun-woo shouldn't have told you." "Don't blame him." "What happened, Kang?" "Business," he said dismissively. "A disagreement that became physical. Nothing serious." "You were stabbed, weren't you?" "I can see the bandages under your shirt." His mouth tightened, confirming her suspicion without words. "Was it because of me?" she asked quietly. "This conflict?" Surprise flickered across his face. "No. These tensions have existed for months. If anything, knowing you has made me more careful, more strategic. I have more to protect now." Mirabel reached out, her fingers lightly touching the bruise on his jaw. "You scared me. When you didn't call, when I couldn't reach you." Kang caught her hand, pressing it against his cheek. "I'm sorry. I didn't want you to worry." "That's not how this works," she said firmly. "You can't just disappear when things get dangerous. I care about you too, Kang, whether that's smart or not." He stared at her, something vulnerable and raw crossing his features. "You shouldn't care about me. My world is violent, dangerous. I've kept that separate from you for a reason." "But it's still part of you," she said softly. "All of it is, and I'm choosing to care anyway." "Mirabel?" He whispered her name like a prayer. I could change for you. I could walk away from all of this, the violence, the criminal connections. I could become someone safe. Could you really? His hesitation was answer enough. I would try. I'm not asking that of you. Your world shaped you into who you are. I just want honesty between us. No more disappearing. No more protecting me from the truth. Kang's expression softened. His hand came to rest on her belly, and as if in response, the baby kicked hard enough for both of them to feel it. Wonder crossed his face, transforming his severe features. Hello, little one, he whispered. Strong like your mother.
I can't wait to meet you, little one.
Me neither. It's going to be amazing.
In that moment, something fundamental shifted between them. A boundary crossed, a connection deepened beyond words. 3 weeks later, Mirabel woke at 3 a.m. to sharp, rhythmic pains that stole her breath away. She reached for her phone with shaking hands. It's time, she said when Kang answered. The baby's coming. The next hours blurred together in waves of pain and medical interventions. When complications arose, the baby's heart rate dropping to dangerous levels, it was Kang who remained calm. He demanded the best specialists, held her hand through every contraction, whispered encouragement against her hair. Stay with me, he murmured as monitors beeped urgent warnings around them. Both of you. Please. And then, cutting through the haze of pain and fear, came a sound Mirabel had waited months to hear. A strong, indignant cry announcing her daughter's arrival. When the nurse placed the tiny, perfect bundle in her arms, the world contracted to this single moment. This beautiful life she had created. Kang stood beside her, and when she looked up at him, she saw tears streaming down his face. She's perfect, he whispered, his voice thick with emotion. When Mirabel carefully transferred the baby to his arms, watching this powerful, dangerous man cradle her infant daughter with infinite gentleness, something in her chest cracked open. Hello, precious one, he murmured to the baby, his finger stroking her impossibly small cheek. Welcome to the world. You have no idea how loved you already are. The baby quieted in his arms, tiny fingers curling around his much larger one. Kang looked up at Mirabel, and in his eyes she saw everything he hadn't said. Love, devotion, fierce protectiveness, gratitude. Thank you, he said simply, for letting me be here, for letting me be part of this. As rain began to fall against the hospital windows, as the city stirred to life in the early morning, 3 souls found shelter in each other. A family formed not by blood or conventional bonds, but by choice, by love, by the mysterious workings of fate. One mistaken message had changed everything. His ruthless response hadn't been violence or manipulation, but an unwavering, fierce commitment to protecting what he'd chosen as his own. It had left her trembling not with fear, but with the overwhelming realization that sometimes fate delivers exactly what we need in the most unexpected ways. Sometimes a wrong number is exactly right. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. Share your thoughts in the comments. Have you ever experienced a moment where a mistake led to something beautiful? We'd love to hear your stories. And remember, sometimes the best connections come from the most unexpected places.